Okay, hello everyone. I'm Marilyn Moore, and this is John Moore, and welcome to the Web Technology for Small Business show. We are here to explore the impact, opportunities, and solutions provided by the web for small businesses. So that's our goal each time we meet, and we're happy to have all of you here today. We have a live in-person audience as well as our Google Plus Hangout audience, and we're happy to have you all here. Today's show is Search and Beyond, Web Visibility for Small Business with Internet Marketing expert Ammon Johns, who is here with us from New Haven, south of London. And we have a little bit of housekeeping to attend to before we get started. So first we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. We are here at the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce office and appreciate their facilities as well as their bandwidth for providing this opportunity for us to broadcast. I've been asked, there are some of the events that Oceanside Chambers is there on your screen, but I also wanted, for our local folks, want to let you know that there is a Yelp Basics for Business Owners conference, or seminar I should say, coming up on November 20th. At 9 o'clock, and there are flyers available for those of you who are here in person. So you might want to pick one of those up because that's another great small business opportunity. Our next sponsor is us. We're Sonic Spider LLC, John and I, and Rich is part of that organization also, as well as his own business, which we'll talk about. We have two websites, rightstartwebsites.com, which is WordPress oriented, as well as web visibility and coaching services, and sonicwebtech.com, which is basically on-demand tech support with a lot of e-commerce help available there. And then Rich's company is Create Computer Networks, and he provides IT solutions, and he's got lots of things he can help you with there.
And here's Rich.
And there he is. Because of our setup, we can't show him live, except for our folks here with us. But thank you very much, Rich, for doing all of the running of our Hangouts.
Okay, next.
And then I just want to give a shout out to Ami Sido, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Ami. We had a little conversation about how to pronounce it, and he has been just super getting the conversation going, and he's done a lot of pre-event discussion and supporting this event, and we've also had some a lot of regular folks that have been regular folks. People who regularly attend, sorry that came out a little awkwardly, and we just want to let you know that we appreciate your support and welcome to anyone who's new. And then we want to encourage questions also from our audience, both in person and on our Hangouts.
Yeah, and if you come and watch the replay, make sure you put your comments in, whether it's YouTube or G+. We watch those comments for forever. And so if you come in 2 months from now and watch, just type your comment in, ask your question, give us some feedback. We like to think of ourselves as professional listeners. So one of the things that we really try to do is keep our ear to the pavement and listen to what you're thinking and doing so that we can include those thoughts as we go along. Okay, now we want to introduce our guest, Ammon Johns, and Johns is a well-respected veteran of online marketing and very, very highly thought of in the SEO industry. He's been doing this since 1996 with clients of all sizes and markets in every way. He is also most famous for his bluntness and frankness and telling you exactly where it is. We have sort of an inside joke of calling him our favorite curmudgeon sometimes. So.
You have to realize that John really likes to think of himself as a curmudgeon also, so there's a reason why he's particularly fond of that term.
Yes. So anyway, I want to quote to you a quote from Rand Fishkin, which really wraps up, and so you really get a feel for Ammon Johns' background and how he's thought of in the industry. Rand Fishkin of Moz.com said, Ammon Johns is one of the brightest minds and most talented individuals in the field of search engine and internet marketing. I can think of few people in the field whom I've learned more and been more impressed by. If you have the rare opportunity to leverage Ammon's immense intellect and experience, say yes. It will rank among the best decisions you've ever made for your business. Now, Ammon, you should be blushing a little bit there, okay? I would.
Just a bit. Yeah.
Anyway, why don't you tell us a little bit about what drives you and motivates you in the things you do, because you're very passionate about it, and that's what's exciting about listening to you and learning from you. So maybe you can start there.
Do you know, where I got started is that I love the internet. I love what it represents. There are a lot of times that people talk about, you know, the greatest thing since sliced bread or the greatest invention since the wheel. I always think that, well, the wheel needed the cart, and the cart wasn't much use until we domesticated horses to pull one, otherwise it was just a guy with a cart. Sliced bread, well, that's just bread that's been sliced. The internet is the greatest invention since the previous greatest invention, and the greatest previous invention was the printing press. And the reason the printing press is so spectacularly good for all of us is because it, for the first time in history, gave a reason for all of us to be educated. The very first thing they did was print Bibles for the churches. And then all the ministers had Bibles. So then it became everybody's Christian duty to own their own Bible and to be able to read it. And so the very first schools for the masses came around, which were the Sunday schools. Without the printing press, there would have been no mass education. Without mass education, there was no Einstein, there was no Oppenheimer. Most of the great minds of our time wouldn't have been educated. So all of the inventions of our century really come back down to the printing press. The internet takes that a step further. The internet lets you publish instantly, worldwide, where before you could, you know, communicate as a pen pal with almost anyone, or you could publish a book that was quite expensive and hope that somebody read it and maybe sent you a note one day with the other part of some thought you'd had in that book. But the internet lets this happen immediately in real time for almost no cost whatsoever. So I'm a massive fan of the internet. When I started, people were still looking at how to monetize this. You've probably all heard claims the internet should be free. Now I say, show me 1 inch of fibre optic cable that was laid for free. Show me the city that just, yeah, dig up our roads, we don't mind, and the workforce that went there, yeah, we'll do it on Sunday, just, you know, spare time thing. The internet has massive infrastructure and it cost billions. Companies invested billions to give us all this fantastic tool, and that meant it had to make money or they were going to take it away from us. They were going to monetize it in ways we didn't like. So I was one of a number of people who found ways that I didn't mind of monetizing the internet and helped it work, and that's how I got started in web promotion and in advertising online.
Very good.
That was incredible description and run up to our discussion today. Thank you. Maybe we can start, since we're here to talk about web visibility, maybe you can start with your own Ammon Johns definition of web visibility and why small businesses should think more in terms of web visibility than just strictly search and search rankings.
Yes, it's a mixture. There are lots of aspects to this.
Yes.
The first thing is that being top of mind usually means you've got to get to somebody's mind before they need you. They've got to already be aware of you. There are lots of brands we can think of, and there are certain times when any kind of concept comes up, we've got a brand in mind or an expert in mind. That kind of thing is purely based on visibility. It's not that we did a search the instant we came up with this concept. That happens too, but the visibility is often about being there beforehand. It's about connecting with somebody before they quite need you. And there are ways that we can do this online with business projects. One of the classics that I talk about is an old slight perversion of AdWords, where I was working for a mortgage company and the mortgage terms were very expensive, but we knew exactly who we wanted to reach. But what we did was instead we looked at property searches in the region. I was working for a company in London. We knew the postcodes that had just the right kind of houses that were ideal for my client. They had the right price, they tended to be families, they tended to be all of the things that they wanted in a customer moving into these particular houses. So what we based our campaign around was bidding for when people were searching for properties on the market in those areas. Now, we could bid quite a lot. It was an expensive set of bids, but we made really clear that we were offering mortgages, not properties. So it didn't matter what we bid because nobody was clicking on it, because at that time they're doing property searches. And our ad was superb mortgages for all properties in this postcode.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting clicks. We're not having to pay for this free advertising. And people do months of searches sometimes to find just the right property that they want in a certain neighbourhood. By the time they had done that, they'd been seeing our company everywhere, or at least that's what they were saying. It felt to them like our company must be wonderful because they've been seeing it everywhere. They've never clicked, they've never gone through the site, but they've got this awareness of this brand everywhere they've gone. This feeling that this brand is always coming up. So by the time they were ready for a mortgage, guess which company was absolute top of mind?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we got a hell of a lot of searches where they were asking for us by name. They came straight looking for this company's website. And that is always the ultimate goal in any kind of web marketing. It doesn't matter that you can rank very well for this search term or that search term. The one search term that's really, really important, the one search term you want as many people to use as possible, is your own company name, because that's the one you're never going to be beaten on, and that nobody is going to choose any other supplier. They are looking for you personally. Mm-hmm. That's web visibility.
Very good.
Excellent. Do you want
So
to...
how do you fit those kind of things in with like chasing rankings? I know you have a little thing you talk about on that, so maybe you could share that, because it's such a good sort of story about chasing rankings and versus where you are in the rankings and the value of that.
This comes back to understanding the searcher. And the searcher, when we're a businessman, we suddenly think of as an idiot, completely different to how we use the internet. We imagine that all of these people that sat at home, they do a search, they click on the first result, and that's that. But we don't do that. Your audience there don't do this when they're doing their own searches. You do a search, you look at maybe the first result, maybe the first result isn't the first one you go to, maybe it's the second or third. That's going to depend on the description or whether you recognize one of the company names. It might not be the first, but you know this company. You go there. There's the product. There's a price. Is it a good price? How do we know? So we come back out of that site and we have to look at another site just to know whether that was a good price or not. So we're a little bit further down the search results now, usually about 4 or 5 in the rankings. There we go, same product, similar price. Okay, so that seems to have been about the right price. I've got to have another go and find a bargain, haven't I? I've got to try again to see if I can get a bargain. So I click through around about number 7. Maybe it's the same price again. Maybe this is the competitive price and nobody can really go below this without making a loss. Do I go back to the first site to get the exact same price that I'm going to pay on the page I'm on right now that's got a buy button there? Of course not. In testing, over some years ago, position 7 actually converted the best when all the sites tended to have the best price, the same sort of price. If you can't differentiate, they stick with where they are. It's usually around about the 3rd click. And by luck, it tended to be around position number 7, but there was very little difference in it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you can give people a really valid reason to come back from other results to yours, position 1 is often the worst place to be in. It's the first site they will look at and the first site they abandon in order to look for a better price. You will be getting the most traffic, but you'll be getting the least conversions.
That's always an interesting irony that makes sense when you hear it. Absolutely, and that's
the one thing that we do try to do, of course, is there's something we call the poison pitch. And if you can rank number one, what you do is you take what everyone else is saying and you pick the holes in that. Why? What are they trying to hide? What would we be trying to hide if we were still doing the same pitch? Okay, here's the smoke and mirrors. Here's what the other companies are going to tell you. Here's the problems with this product. Now they go through and they see these other sites, and there they are, doing exactly what you said they were going to do. They're saying exactly the things that you said they were going to say. Which company's been honest? Now I've got something to come back to you for. So that's how you can make being number one work for you. But you've got to have something that makes people come back, that extra level of honesty or that extra level of service or simply trust.
Now, with personalized search, we often hear there's no number one page or number one position on Google anymore because everyone, not everyone, but if you're logged into your Google account and you haven't changed out of the default setting, you're going to get a personalized result. How does that play into web visibility?
Well, it's absolutely the point. There is no one set of search results anymore. What's very interesting is that different data centers around the world deal with different areas, different clients as well. The exact wording you can use can change which data center you get. If you ever want to see this and have some fun with it, when you run a search, also just translate it into another language and run a search on that. And Google will give you an entirely different set of results. Based on the language, you'll get localized results for that language. And that's one very quick way that you can play around and see how much, just on the different language you used, Google will change your results. Even though it's still you, still the same cookies, you've still got the same friends, you've still got the same search behavior. The very fact you searched in a different language makes it return completely different results. If you search in Chinese, you will get a data center in the Far East and completely different results to what you'd normally get.
Also, how much does, and I've heard this from various sources, what you've searched before affect what you are searching next? In other words, Google is kind of remembering where you've been and what you've looked for, and that colors it too.
Yeah. And the sites that you've often visited as well. It's a bit of a joke in our industry is when you get somebody who's quite new to SEO, particularly some of the salesmen that come in and are working to sell SEO services for some of the agencies. Usually about 4 months in, they'll get all excited. My blog's number one, or I'm number one for this and that and the other. And then you show them somebody else's computer running the search, and they're nowhere.
Right.
Of course, they've been going through, they've been interacting with their own site, so Google knows this is the most relevant site for them for this phrase because they've been digging through the results to find it for months.
Yeah. I have to say,
kind of poisoned your own search there.
When I was just joining our business, I was one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, look. And then and the light went on. It's like, okay.
Now, how can are there ways that a person can influence the personal search of who you're connected to, like in various social media, and where is the strongest connection? That's a leading question, by the way.
Oh, yes. And Marilyn's going to be happy because it's Google+. If somebody's in your Google+ circles, and it's much more likely that you will find posts from them or things they've liked and linked to in your search results. Things that you've interacted with come top, but things that people in your circles have interacted with or posted are right up there as well. So that certainly is one thing. The other thing is simple base authority. When we look at personalization, it's a filter on the default results. And it can sometimes be a very strong filter. But still, if I search in Google for Yahoo, it doesn't matter who I am, it doesn't matter what my previous search results, guess which company is going to come number one? Yahoo.
Right.
Because it's such an obvious link. Now, if you can be very, very strong in the number of links that are pointing to your site, the number of interactions with your site, that people saying this are usually looking for this result, Google always puts that high in the search result. At the end of the day, they are in the same business as you. They've got customers, They've got search customers, and their end goal is to make those customers happy enough with Google that they keep using Google. They keep coming back so that they will keep clicking on the ads.
You mentioned SEO. Web visibility includes SEO, but it's a broader term. Can you explain that relationship between SEO and web visibility?
I think it's one of the web visibility is one of the broadest of all possible terms, and it's simply about using the internet to create awareness at various stages throughout the process. And sometimes this is sort of just general knowledge, letting yourself be known for a thing. Sometimes it's about very broad exposure. So some of the viral campaigns, people sharing a lot of media, it may not directly affect their business, but it raises their visibility generally, so that when somebody is looking for a particular thing and your page is anywhere in the results, oh, I know that company, I know that name, I can't think where from, but I know that, I've seen that, and therefore it gives you that extra level of familiarity when they're trying to pick from the results. So that all helps. It's all about building that exposure. The other kind of web visibility is about authority within a particular niche. Let's take an example of a tool store. We don't benefit directly from putting up guides to how to build lots of things. We don't directly benefit from that. Of course, if people are building these things, it's much more likely they're going to buy tools to use them as well. And more importantly, sometimes the tools we've already sold them, they're going to be happier with if they've managed to do more successful projects with them. So that kind of customer relationship builds up your credibility generally and greatly enhances your business. It's not always as direct as the other thing, but you know, it's right up there. And the third kind is when it's really direct and it's all about your expertise in a particular area. So it's where you're talking about the manufacture of tools and the tolerances, what the materials are, what differentiates this tool from that tool. Why are German spanners considered some of the best in the world? When you're dealing with wrenches, it's the German market almost all the time. Why? That kind of thing is building up your pinpoint expertise. But that's only really going to matter to tool shops most of the time rather than the occasional user of tools.
Well, before we went live, we had a little discussion on social media, which is obviously very important if you want to be visible, to be on social media. And we had a little discussion about if there were any networks that Ammon considered a must-do, and he had some great opinions. I wonder if you'd recap that for us here.
Yeah, certainly. Again, it's the thing of go where your market is. There's no point being really great at a platform that your customers aren't using. Now, this varies a lot. Now, sometimes people think that means go where the numbers are on Facebook. But one of the things I say about Facebook is still mostly about personal use and casual use. It's the one we use from home. It's not something we do for work. It's our leisure time. So understand that if you're pushing a business message in people's leisure time, that's going to make you really, really unpopular. So unless your business targets that leisure time, you're a pizza company, or you're talking about DIY projects, or you're supplying things to people who cook. Unless you're finding those leisure tie-ins, somehow Facebook isn't going to work that well for you, because it's not a commercial platform. It's not, oh, I must see some adverts today, let me log into Facebook. That doesn't happen. Facebook would love it to happen, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
If you're doing B2B, the absolute obvious platform is LinkedIn. It's kind of the default platform for every business to be on. It's heavily used by headhunters. If you can do things for B2B, if you can publish good articles about how other businesses can get leads from whatever they're doing, then LinkedIn can be a superb platform for that.
Okay, we have a question from Paula Allen. Would you give that a click there, Rich? And she wants you to do a Venn diagram, but basically kind of showing where these overlap a little bit. I know you don't have a Venn diagram and a whiteboard there, but you know, maybe you can kind of give us kind of a verbal version of that and kind of see how they overlap and where they're different as well.
She's not going to let me off. She's going to want the Venn diagram. Great question, Paula. Web visibility is the big picture. Without it, you're web invisible, which isn't going to do you any good whatsoever. But web visibility comes in many shapes, sizes. It comes in being in somebody's email newsletter. It comes in people being able to find your site. It comes in people being aware of you because you're in the places that they already are. You're fishing where the fish are. SEO is this small area of inbound marketing, and inbound marketing is a circle entirely within web visibility. SEO is very specific. Now, this is what I love about it, is that it's so tightly targeted. SEO means I can reach just the people who have this thing on their mind right now. I'm not bothering anybody, because if it wasn't on their mind, they wouldn't be searching for it. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't be too broad. Years ago, there was a client who was selling video recording machines, or rather video players. And so he wanted to bid for videos. This was back when DVDs looked like cassettes.
Yeah.
It's quite new. He wanted to be on #1 for videos. No. Seriously, no, you don't want videos. There's a whole adult industry that's supplying videos, and there's lots of people searching for those. You do not want those people. They're not going to want your video. Okay, so I want video players. Okay, but no, because there's a lot of software video players that people are looking for. You don't do those, you only do hardware. Oh, right. So what do I want? I said specific brands. You want the makes and models. Somebody who's just searching for video players, or even video players to buy, is looking for a general store. They're nowhere near reaching for a credit card. When I start looking for Sanyo video player, I'm starting to think of a model I actually like and trust. That's the first time I'm even thinking about maybe getting a purchase down the line. When I get to Sanyo model XK35 video player, now you know I'm serious. I've done my research, I've looked it up, this is the one my friend has, this is the one that's been recommended in some magazine, this is the one I'm looking to buy. They're still going to be buying on price, so you've still got some work to do to show them why maybe your little bit extra is worth paying, or that kind of thing. But that's the first time that they've actually got a commercial intent. Before that, it's window shopping at best.
Mm-hmm.
So SEO is a subset of web visibility.
And very targeted.
Very targeted.
Oh,
I think Danny Sullivan put it best years ago. He said, we're used to broadcasting. Search engine optimization and search marketing generally is the complete opposite. It's narrow pulling. It's understanding exactly what's on your mind and only pulling you, because you've already selected, you've already searched for this thing, you're actively doing this, and I'm able to hear that or pre-position for it, so that when you do that call, when you do that search, there's me in the visible results pulling you in. And
We have somebody online here, Gina Fidel, who has a very deep question for you about your snazzy look today, and Lee Richter is also has some thoughts on that too.
No, sorry, Lee, full suit.
Okay. Okay.
Where do you want to go next?
Now, small businesses oftentimes look at all of the social media and all these things that we've been talking about, and they go, "Whoa, I'm overwhelmed. What do I do?" Do you have some kind of thoughts as to kind of what you might call steps that a a small business might go through to think about where they belong and think about the direction they might take to kind of get off the chair, so to speak, and move forward a little bit?
And I might just add on to that a question that Rich had voiced before the event went live, is it's not always easy for a small business to know where their audience is. And is it trial and error, or is there something more specific?
It's a balance, and you're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah.
It's, for the first thing, we're all used to the idea under promise, over deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Apply this to yourself. Apply this to your own tasks. Don't think you have to do everything. Your default should be, is this worth it? Is this important? Because you've got more demands on your time than you've possibly got time to do. So first thing is always, is this worth it? Do I have a reasonable grounds to believe that there is a return in this? If there isn't, don't even go there. Focus on the things that you know can deliver a return. Earn enough there to employ somebody else to do that extra thing. That's the whole goal of business, is to grow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, that said, don't feel like you have to be on every social network. Pick one. If you're not great at writing a lot of stuff and you just want to drop a few links, Twitter is the place to go to. It's very minimal. It's very easy to get going. I'd probably say it's the one where you can get traction for the least possible amount of effort. You will need to promote your Twitter link, but even then, by responding to other people's threads, by keeping up with what's going on, Twitter is very easy. The fact that you can just one click retweet somebody else's tweets, which will often get them following you or the people interested, that can help you very quickly get people going. It's giving you an interesting stream. So it's very, very simple. Twitter's one of the easiest to get going with. Facebook, I don't like Facebook. It's got very powerful methods. If you're prepared to spend budget, Facebook is incredibly powerful because it allows you to do pinpoint targeting based on all kinds of tastes that people have. But for social media engagement, I don't find it that great. Google Plus is my personal choice, but that's because I'm verbose. You may not have noticed this. I'm not quite reticent. But,
in the best sort of way. For people that do want to produce content rather than just drop a link or retweet, is writing good content and promoting it enough? Should every business have a blog as part of their website? And what other kinds of content besides written content, such as video, how important is it to have a mix of your content creation?
blogging is a big time sink. Get that straight right away. If you're a 1-2 person business and you don't have a couple of hours a day, you might not be really well suited to blogging. You're going to have to make at least a couple of hours a week, every single week, to keep up your blog. No two ways about it. If you don't have that, don't start one. Instead, think of putting up a press pack, jumping on, seeing if you can get interviewed by other people's blogs. Even if you've got to buy your way on at first to get on the circuit, that's going to be a much more economical use of your time because you can use your couple of hours when you've got it. You can produce a really good article and suggest it to somebody else's blog as a guest post. That kind of thing will get you further if you don't have a lot of time. It's about understanding your own business to yourself, under promise, over deliver. Make fewer commitments and nail them all. Don't make any commitments that you can't nail.
That is such an important point. And I think, too, given that web visibility is such a broad area, and it's easy to go here, there, everywhere, or at least feel like you should, and the jack of all trades, master of none kind of syndrome can, I think, easily take over.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We have only, how do you only
Ami Sido.
Ami Sido has a question for you. Rich, could you click them up there and back up?
Is this the involved team? Yeah.
Yeah. Got any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one we had in the discussion with Ami, which
Yes.
Was about a client of mine was in the mobile phones industry, and what we did, we had the whole marketing department as part of the team for this blog. Now, the guy who was the senior guy, his thing was always the most reliable phone, being aware of the newest, but you know, it was really certain makes and models. It was the popular phones. He knew what he was doing, and he didn't waste time with a lot of extra buzz about the industry. He was kind of interested, and he'd always talk about the trade shows. He always kept up with that kind of stuff. So when he was blogging, he was usually talking about the reliable makes and models, the top makes and models, or trade shows that were going on and what was really cool there. And one time, one of the trade shows didn't have a ban on cameras. They went all around this trade show. All the makes and models that weren't going to be out for 6 months, they had pictures of them all up on their blog that week. They got about 6 exclusives out of that. So don't be afraid to, you know, if you are blogging, take a phone along next time you go to a convention. If there's no rule against it, half the time you can actually get a scoop, you can interview people, that kind of thing. One of the guys, younger guy, always interested in what was really trendy, what was cool. So he was talking about, you know, the really ultra phones or the really groovy phones, and sometimes the really extreme things. So he was one that covered the Prada phone when it first came out. He had the phone that had something like £80,000 worth of diamonds embedded in the case. But these things got links. They got people talking. Another guy was always talking about the apps and the practicalities and the battery life. And between them, they covered a lot of different aspects. And that team effect really worked. They each had their own personality. They each had their own fans. But collectively, it gave a sort of magazine content to their blog. And they got a lot of first page positions. They got a lot of scoops and big traffic terms from that. They'd been struggling in a very competitive market for some years. They'd been using one of the most reputable SEO companies in the UK for a couple of years. Couldn't quite get above page 3. Once they put in the blog, they got onto page 1. But funnily enough, that wasn't the reason for having the blog. The reason for having the blog, and this comes back to that previous question, is it allowed them to engage in a different way. This was a reseller. They have the deals from the mobile phone companies that the networks give them. We'll let you have this phone on our network with you know, an Xbox 360 for this price, but they've got to sign an 18-month contract. They don't control the contracts. They don't control the products that they get. They can ask for them and they can refuse, but they can't absolutely dictate any of these. They're not making something. They're just getting the deals that they can, and they were the second largest online supplier. The largest was getting the best deals. That's the way these things go. Anyone who competes with Amazon knows exactly what this feels like. Amazon get prices from the manufacturer that you will not get.
Right.
Amazon can be selling this product for a profit for less than you can buy it from the manufacturer for your shop. How do you compete? Well, you add something. We don't buy the cheapest things. You know, look at your clothes. Are these the very cheapest brands around? Of course not. Are these from the bargain basement? No, usually not. The shoes we buy, the cars we buy, you know, these, we always make compromises. And there's one other thing. We like to buy from people we trust. We will pay $1 extra or $10 extra or even 5% extra to buy from a friend in the trade that we know won't rip us off and is going to help us out. By having a blog, you can become everybody's friend in the trade. You can become that go-to person. Just by being you and being honest, you can become the friend in the trade to thousands of people. The guy they're willing to spend a little bit more to deal with. So even when this company couldn't get the best deal, people would still stick with them. That's what we call marketing.
Right. We have another good question from, and I don't remember her name. She comes under the occasional note cards thing, and Rich, can you put that up? Not all of it is showing up here, so I'll read it real quick. I have a fairly new e-card website, which is unique in that all the cards are photographs. I also donate some proceeds to the eye disease research because of my personal history between an eye disease I have and the power of the camera lens for me. Should I advertise my site as e-cards, greeting cards, note cards, or should I advertise as a fundraising site or something different?
Wow, okay. To an extent, it's all of those. This is what we're talking about with visibility. If you make a choice and don't do the other things, then you're visible in one place and not in others. It's like the issue of perspectives. You want to be seen from as many angles as possible that apply. Certainly, you have your work cut out in competing on e-cards and greetings cards because there's a lot of very well-established players in this market. There's a lot of companies that, you know, they've got turnover. It's a bit like that situation with Amazon and the small business. These people have the bulk to be able to do prices that the rest of us usually can't without just not making a living. So it's going to be tough, but you kind of need to be on all of those. What you really need to do is have a unique selling proposition, something that customer separates your cards from everybody else's. The charitable part is one aspect of that, but I think the key is always going to be to make those occasion cards and greetings cards that the others aren't. Think of some of those small events that most of the companies aren't doing and do those. Have that unique aspect. You might be the first one to cover every religion's holiday, or just, you know, those All Saints days, all those different saints that most of us have never even researched. You've got a card for each of them. Just needs that something extra. That's something that matters to the customer. That's something that puts you ahead, that makes you more mindful or more concerned or just better researched than those big faceless brands, which is always how we portray those big companies. Amazon, we don't expect to get personal service from. We know that somebody who's underpaid is grudgingly doing these things to get us our product. We're okay with that because it's cheap enough. But what you want to do when you're the small player is show how this is the purchase with soul. This is the purchase with heart. This is the purchase that matters and deals with a real person. So that's kind of where you're going with this kind of business. You've got to stand out.
You're mentioning of unique selling point or unique selling proposition, however you want to phrase it, but something I was thinking of when you were talking about how people often don't click on the first one, on the first return, and then they go on to the list, and they all seem the same, so I'll take the one I'm on. So it seems for web visibility purpose, not only having some sort of unique selling proposition, but the whole idea of personal branding, which is really a hot topic right now, would be an important part. Am I right there on the whole web visibility?
Yeah, but I tend to view personal branding slightly backwards. Sure, I have a personal brand, but what matters is how other persons personally see my brand. Apple is a great example of this. What do Apple do? Well, the main thing that Apple do is connect with their users and represent a difference in a way that nobody else can compare to. Every Apple customer has a personal relationship with Apple. They all have this. There are zealots, let's face it, for Apple products. That doesn't translate to, Google's starting to get there as well. There are Android fans that are, absolute staunch advocates. They've given them a personal part in this story, and I think that is always one of the reasons why we say one of the most powerful things in online marketing is storytelling. If your brand has a story that others can associate with and feel like a part of, that's going to help you a lot.
Speaking of storytelling, if we can bring up the comment from Gina Fidel
Yeah, the second one, not the other second one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
she has a comment here on blogging, and she is has quite a marvelous talent at storytelling, and she's giving a little different perspective on blogging, and it's a little far for me to read, so I'm going to let you read it.
Okay. I'm afraid I have to throw in another perspective about time and blogging. I feel that my blog has been a great benefit for a number of reasons, and I basically write one blog post every 2 weeks. So she finds that it really helps her in how she
She's attracting quite an
right.
audience. I think her point is that she's not blogging all that frequently.
No, she's not making another point there at all, because that's exactly how I am. I know exactly where she's coming from. The thing is, when Gina posts a blog post, it's 10 of anybody else's blog posts.
Mm-hmm.
She writes one every 2 weeks. I think what she meant to say is it takes 2 weeks to write one, which is about how it can be for me. I put anything in up to 30 hours into one blog post. I know my friend Bill Slavsky is the same. And I know Gina must be coming very close to that. We put a lot of time into creating big posts, epic posts, what we used to call flagship content. You know, this isn't filler copy. This is the main attraction. This is the thing that a journalist spends all week on to come up with for the Sunday magazine. That kind of level of content, of course, you expect to put more time in. You won't be producing these regularly.
However, the average, I hate to use that word, but the average small business owner probably is not going to want to commit to that. So am I correct then that if that's your situation, that maybe you should look for other ways for your visibility? Or am I taking that?
There are so many different styles of blogs. There are blogs that do very quick, small posts that are still very timely. You could have a blog where you were picking a quote of the day, somebody's great quote, and why that was your thought of the day. Just a couple of paragraphs giving your personal take on this. That's a good blog post. It's not great, it's not epic, it's not going to get 1,000 people, but every single one could get 100 people. Everyone could do that little thing, and collectively they build up. At the end of the month, you might put all of those together, and instead of just relegating them to a past archive, you'd do a best quotes of the month and get rid of the others and consolidate those. Certainly at the end of the year, you would consider doing that kind of thing.
What
Blogging,
about? Oh, sorry.
I do hear people sometimes think that blogging's got to be very, very regular. Oh, you need to be posting 3 times a week. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. There's nothing to that whatsoever. There is a little boost in search for things that are new. And it first started coming around. We first started seeing this 2004, and we called it a freshness boost.
Mm-hmm.
This is because the way that Google and other search engines looked at links, new content didn't do very well because it didn't have time to have any links.
Oh, yes.
All the old stuff was right up there. So what they did was they created a freshness boost. If something's really fresh the first couple of weeks, it got a boost that was kind of equivalent to a whole load of links. But this would drop off over time. That's still active in search. But if you are finding, or if somebody is telling you that fresh content does really well, what they mean is they get so little traction on their posts that little boost of freshness is performing better than their old established green content.
Uh-huh.
So seriously, watch out for anyone telling you have to post regularly. It's much better. I think on the Isuzi blog, I posted a grand total of 4 articles. Every single one was very well researched. I spent a lot of time on it. They're evergreen. They're going to last. They're good articles, and they still get links today and still get mentions today. So that's where it is for me.
Great. I know we haven't had anybody on our live audience raise their hand or anything, but please, if you have a thought or something, jump right in, okay? The next thing we'd like to look at, and it's kind of like a little more off the wall, and that is, do you see situations where your offline activities will affect your online activities? I mean, I can think of a few, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, massively. One of the things that I try and deal with a lot of clients is PR and your offline activities. You know, if you can get a mention in the local newspaper, that's going to affect the online copy as well. That's going to help you. If you're featured almost anywhere, that kind of thing is going to help you. Stores have promotional giveaways that still get mentioned on social media. So even if you're not going to actively engage on social media, i.e. have an outgoing strategy, you should have a listening strategy. And that means that you start listening across those social media for mentions of your company. Because after all, if somebody's saying that they had a terrible time, you want to get on top of that really quickly and apologize for it. Even if they're being quite unreasonable with what they were disappointed with. You know, your hot chocolate was really hot, it burnt my mouth. It's hot. You still apologize because you didn't want them to have a bad experience. You don't want them to be saying negative things. So in that regard, you always are sorry, so just say so. And when people see you being listening, attentive, even to people that are being unreasonable, that you're trying your best, doesn't mean you have to buckle under, but that you're trying your best, they will see that the other person was unreasonable, and they will see that you were very reasonable, and it boosts your reputation. But most importantly of all, research time and time again has shown that the most loyal customers of all are the people who once had a problem with you and it got resolved.
Absolutely, yeah.
Actually,
I think very highly of people that take care of you.
Yes.
Because you know the world's not perfect, so you know things are going to get screwed up. So when somebody jumps in and makes it better, you think quite a bit more highly of them.
That's
absolutely
really true.
Okay, we have a question in our audience here, and
Sally McKay.
My name is Sally McKay, and my question is, I am a home-based travel agency with independent contractors across the nation that work for me, but how do I best reach people? Because there's a lot of people out there selling travel. I know what sets me apart. How do I convey that to get the most hits on my Facebook pages? I don't understand Google+, which is quite obvious here today. That's why I'm here.
I'm going to repeat the question. Sally McKay has a home-based travel agency, and she's asking how she can reach the people, reach people on her Facebook page. She's not using Google Plus at the moment. Am I paraphrasing that properly?
Yeah, there's a lot of travel agencies out there, large ones.
How to set herself apart from other travel agencies out there, especially the large ones.
Okay. Well, let's start with the obvious. The travel industry is, again, incredibly competitive. And all of those big travel agents out there aren't getting most of the traffic. They're all having to buy their traffic from those little travel bloggers, those people who are writing their travelogues. Because we know all the travel agents are going to tell us all this wonderful stuff about this resort and this hotel and what features it has, and that's not why we've gone there at all. What I want to know is, I'm going to Barcelona because I want to go and visit this museum and see this festival. You're not talking about those things. Even though you've got a hotel on that street, you're not talking about those things. You're telling me what's in your hotel. Oh, we have beds and towels. Well, that's going to set you apart from every other hotel in the world, isn't it? What you need to be doing with your hotel or with your travel destination generally is talking about what brings people into the area. Now, you know this because every guest that's ever been there has talked about these things. Why did they come there? What are they going to want to do? If I'm in Disneyland, okay, you know, it's obvious Disneyland for Florida, but what else? What else would I like to do around that area? What do most of the people do that's in that area? Talk about how close you are to those attractions. Talk about how that experience is. So if I was going to see the bull run in Spain, you know, I'd want to know where my hotel is, i.e. that it's not on the bull run, because I don't want to just step out the hotel and get mown down. But I want to know I can get to it quite quickly. I want to know that it's near this market, that there's some restaurants nearby. Is it a safe district to walk around? All of those kind of things. Those, we can only get those on the blogs at the moment. The travel companies aren't talking about that. The ones that do, Thomas Cook used to do these wonderful travel guides, but they sell them as books. So they don't want to put that content out for free because they want to sell it. So one of the big things is understand why your customers are making this purchase. And that's all industries, not just travel. Understand why your customers are making this purchase and talk in their terms. Understand that, yeah, it's nice to know that your prices are cheap, but do you know what? I'd rather pay more for an airline that isn't going to lose my luggage. You know, talk about that kind of thing. Talk about what kind of problems there can be and how good this company is for resolving it, or offer insurance and a guarantee on that kind of issue. Doing those extras, even if people don't pay for them, just knowing they're there puts an awful lot of minds at ease.
Mm-hmm. But they can get them. Yeah. We have a question from Kristen Drysdale. You put that up, Rich. Are there any particular strategies?
We need to get the question up.
Oh, is it up?
Yeah. Are there any particular strategies for listening? Is this the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. There we are. Are there any particular strategies for listening for your brand across the web that we can put to use today? Great. Yes.
Obviously, you're listening for your company, but know what your product area is as well. So I've got a company that's dealing with travel. What are the main destinations I deal with? Right, so listen for mentions of those places. What are the big events that go on at those destinations? Listen for mentions of those events. If I'm, you know, mostly about business trips, listen for mentions of business trips. You're not going to be able to answer every single question, but just the fact that you can dip in regularly and get a sample of what people are talking about can give you great ideas for your blog, for your marketing strategy and other things. You know, listen to those problems. How many travel agents have heard for years, you know, the things that people are worried about with travel, but how many of them are really doing anything to say, well, look, this is a problem. This is a problem, and if I can fix this problem, I've got a whole new product. You hate losing your luggage when you're aboard, right? We know that kind of insurance can be done, but also, what about a commitment that we will find where this has gone in 6 hours flat? We might not be able to get it to you, but we will be able to answer the question. And if we can't get this to you, if need be, we will pay, and you know, we will give you so much voucher to buy new clothes with while you're waiting for it to catch up. If it's a laptop, you know, we'll find a way to data transfer if it's possible from that place. We'll upload somewhere to the cloud where you can get this data back. We'll lend you a computer to download that from the cloud. Those kind of issues just reinvent things. There's a famous story about Rolls-Royce that somebody had bought a Rolls-Royce and had it somewhere out in the deserts in Africa, and the crankshaft broke. And Rolls-Royce flew over a jet with the spare parts and the engineers to fix it for free. And when he said, you know, well, wow, this is phenomenal. They said, what is? He said that you flew all this way to fix Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce just don't break. And they left.
Yeah.
I know we're running short of time, but there's one thing I would love to get in just before we close that I think people will find valuable. And a follow-up question, Gina Fidel mentioned her juggling of content marketing and so forth, and I would throw social media in there too. And I just wondered if you had some specifics. I think I've heard you speak on this at some point about okay, we're all wearing all these hats and strapped for time, of how to fit social media, or I'm going to say social media right now, into their day's workday, or a schedule, or what they should try to accomplish within a limited time.
Well, one of the early ones can be doing that thing of that morning cup of coffee when we're still settling into the day.
No, we want
Decide 15 minutes to just read your own news feed, you know, from the news sites that you like, whether you've got a Feedly feed from other blogs, whether it's the news sites, or whether it's your social media streams. Spend 15 minutes, pick out the stories you like, and pick, you know, a couple that go together in a similar theme or that are a little bit different. Write one paragraph on each about why you like that thing and link to it, and there's a post. You've got a post that wrote itself that took you 20 minutes, that cites 3 sources that are quite likely to link back and are going to think positively of you, but also that helps other people on that morning round to find 3 good stories. It's got your own little take, your own paragraph on what you found interesting about this story or why you thought it was notable. And that alone can be a realistic strategy moving forwards. It's kind of minimum viable post. That works on a blog or on social media.
Wonderful.
Right.
That's really helpful. Are we
Okay.
ready to wrap up?
Yeah, we're ready to wrap up.
Okay, Ammon, do you have any closing thoughts before we close?
An hour ago.
So, yeah, it's over. It just went zooming right on by, as usual. Yeah. So wrap up some
do you
ideas.
have any parting thoughts?
Other than that, I'd simply say, you know, do keep the comments coming in the event stream. If there's any others that I haven't caught yet or that come up, I will try and get to them as soon as I can. But it's been
great. And our audience here, when you get home, go on Google Plus or YouTube, and if you've got questions, type them in. And Ammon is very great at following up.
He is wonderful.
Really wonderful.
You are
following
wonderful.
up.
Thank you.
And Marilyn and I will try to follow up with our thoughts right along with everybody else. So that is really great. Now, I want to remind everybody that we do this normally on the second Tuesday of each month, and this month was Veterans Day, so the chamber was closed on Veterans Day, so we got moved to Wednesday. So that's why we're on Wednesday today. Now we're going to be dark next month. We're taking the holidays off, and so we'll be back in January. So keep an eye out.
January 13th.
January 13th, and we're going to be back here doing our thing, trying to find ways to help small businesses understand all of this that we're doing.
And Ammon, I know people can follow you on Google Plus. How else can they contact you, or be able to follow what all your great
you
content?
You can put my name into Google. And you'll find me in lots of places. But I would say G Plus is a great place to connect with me. And particularly if there's any businesses there that need that extra bit of help, I'm always looking for new clients for my Ammon show. 1 hour free consulting unique to them. So.
Oh yeah, that's something to bring up. Ammon does this show online where he actually does an online kind of consulting thing, and it's really great.
Free.
And it's free, and you should watch him do these because he goes through a lot of the issues that you probably will relate to. Similar issues to any small business, and he'll go through and provide suggestions and ideas. It's really fantastic. It's like watching a consulting going on for a small business, and you're going to pick up all kinds of great ideas. So I had that as one of the pictures on my little introduction thing, and it's a great show to watch. It really is fantastic. And I want to thank you, Ammon, for coming. You're great as always, and you've always got some great ideas that and I find that you really speak to a lot of the problems that small businesses have. So that's why I have kind of stalk you all the time and all your content, you know? And reading and everything. And so thank you very much, and
It's
we
been a pleasure.
really appreciate
Very
you
welcome.
being here, and we'll move on because we're already running a little late.
And I know it's late for you there, so thank you again.
Okay, great. Okay.